Welcome to the Unseen Architects. Today, we're diving deep into a question that I think a lot of us ponder, maybe over a late-night coffee or scrolling through our feeds. Who really holds the reins? We talk about democracy, about our votes, but there's this pervasive feeling that something much larger, much more complex is at play. To help us untangle this, I'm thrilled to have two incredibly insightful voices with us today. Kier, leader of the Labour Party, and Nigel, leader of the Reform Party. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Peter. It's certainly a complex area, but one that demands rigorous discussion.
Always a pleasure, Peter, and it's a topic that's far more real than many in the establishment would like to admit, isn't it?
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. We have governments, corporations, banks, even entities like the Crown or religious institutions. On paper, they all have their own governance structures. But how do you see them interacting, influencing each other? Is there really a single governing force, or is it, as some suggest, this kind of interlocking matrix?
Well, Peter, from a political science perspective, you're absolutely right about the interlocking matrix. Governments are theoretically accountable to the public. Through elections and laws, they create the legal frameworks, issue licenses, manage currency, and so on. But they operate within an ecosystem. Corporations, for instance, are driven by their boards, shareholders, and market forces. They influence governments through lobbying, funding campaigns, and controlling vital services like infrastructure and technology. Banks, especially central banks like the Federal Reserve or the ECB, set interest rates and capital flow, effectively shaping global economic policy. It's a constant push and pull, a dance of influence rather than a single puppet master.
Kier, with all due respect, it's a lot more than just a dance of influence. What we see, what the average person feels, is that actual governance often resides in an unelected oligarchy or plutocracy. You mentioned central banks. These are largely independent, aren't they? Not directly accountable to voters. And multinational corporations? They operate globally, often dictating terms to national governments, threatening to move jobs and investment if they don't get their way. Lobbying isn't just influence, it's a powerful mechanism where wealthy elites and their interests often get to write the rules. It often feels like a form of technocracy too, where decisions are made by experts behind closed doors, far removed from public scrutiny.
So, Nigel, are you suggesting that these entities, particularly the corporations and banks, are essentially running the show, overriding the will of elected governments?
I'm suggesting that the cumulative weight of their power, their control over essential services, information and capital means that elected governments often have very little room to manoeuvre. They're constrained by global markets, by international agreements, by the sheer financial power of these entities. Think about it. A government wants to implement a certain policy, but if it goes against the interests of, say, a major tech firm or a powerful financial institution, the pressure brought to bear can be immense. It makes a mockery of our votes, doesn't it?
I understand the frustration, Nigel, and it's certainly true that these powerful interests exert significant pressure. But to say it makes a mockery of our votes might be a step too far. We still have democratic processes, legal challenges, and the power of public opinion. The role of government, my role, is to create a robust regulatory environment that protects the public interest and ensures accountability. We need to strengthen democratic institutions, not dismiss them. The challenge is to reassert the primacy of the elected government and the public good over corporate profit. This means more transparency in lobbying, stronger financial regulation, and holding corporations to account for their societal impact. It's an ongoing battle, but not a lost cause.
That brings us nicely to the concept of the shadow government, or deep state. It's a term that gets thrown around a lot. Kier, you're a legal man, steeped in public institutions. How do you define it? Is it the stuff of conspiracy theories, or is there a more grounded understanding from a political science perspective?
It is important to distinguish, Peter. In popular conspiracy theories, the shadow government is often presented as a secret, monolithic body. Global elites, intelligence chiefs, powerful bankers, or groups like the Illuminati, secretly manipulating leaders to establish a new world order. That's a very specific, often unverifiable narrative. From a political science viewpoint, however, the deep state refers to the powerful, unelected actors within government structures, whose influence persists regardless of which party is in power. These are career bureaucrats, high-ranking intelligence officials, senior military leadership, and yes, powerful lobbyists. They possess immense institutional memory, control complex regulatory bodies, and have technical expertise that makes them indispensable. Their structural permanence can at times override the temporary mandates of elected officials, creating a sense that policy is predetermined by powerful interests rather than voter will. It's not about secret cabals, but about the inertia and embedded power of established bureaucracies and vested interests.
Well, Kier, I think the line between your political science definition and the conspiracy theory version is a lot thinner than you'd like to admit. When you have career bureaucrats who can block the agenda of an elected government, when intelligence agencies operate with such secrecy that even the Prime Minister struggles to get full oversight, and when lobbyists for massive corporations essentially draft legislation, that starts to sound an awful lot like unelected figures wielding immense power behind the scenes, doesn't it? Whether they're wearing funny robes or expensive suits, the effect is the same. Decisions are made that aren't accountable to the people. And let's not forget the international bodies. The IMF, the WTO, these are not elected bodies, yet they dictate economic policy to nations. That's a shadow government, in effect, making decisions that strip away national sovereignty and individual rights.
So, Nigel, you see these unelected but powerful bureaucratic and international structures as essentially functioning like the shadow government that many people fear.
Absolutely. It's a deep state that is deeply entrenched. They don't need to meet in a secret lair. They're in plain sight, just not under democratic control. Their goal, whether they admit it or not, is often to maintain the status quo, to keep the gravy train running and to subtly shift power away from national democratic control towards more globalist, technocratic solutions. We see it in Brussels, we see it in the UN, we see it in our own civil service. It's a continuous, often unseen erosion of our ability to self-govern.
I agree that there's a need for greater democratic oversight and accountability in all these areas, Nigel. It's a constant struggle. But let's be clear, career civil servants are essential for the functioning of government. They provide continuity and expertise. The issue is when their influence becomes disproportionate or when external lobbying efforts skew policy. That's why transparency, robust ethics rules and strong parliamentary scrutiny are vital. We need to reform and strengthen our democratic institutions to meet these challenges, not dismantle them based on a distrust of unelected power that risks throwing out the baby with the bathwater. The solution isn't to demonise the bureaucracy, but to ensure it serves the public transparently and effectively under democratic mandate.
That leads us to a really crucial question. Is it too late to keep sovereignty as a civilian? This feeling of losing individual agency, of being just a cog in a vast machine, it's very real for many people. Nigel, you've often spoken about national sovereignty. How about civilian sovereignty?
It's a huge concern, Peter. When you look at globalization, economic policy is increasingly dictated by multinational corporations and international bodies that aren't accountable to national voters. Then there's surveillance capitalism. Private corporations, social media platforms, they collect vast amounts of our data, profiling us in astonishing detail. We're being watched, analyzed, influenced. And the sheer complexity of law and regulation makes it impossible for the average citizen to understand, let alone influence, the decisions that affect their lives. How can you have sovereignty when you don't even understand the rules being made for you, or when your every digital move is tracked and monetized? It feels like we're being disempowered, bit by bit. I mean, we still have legal rights, yes, but are we truly sovereign when so much of our lives is governed by forces outside our control?
I share the concerns about the erosion of individual autonomy, Nigel. The challenges you raise are legitimate. Globalisation does present issues for national control, and data privacy is a huge battleground. However, I wouldn't say it's too late. Our legal rights, due process, free speech, assembly, they absolutely still exist. But they're not passive, they have to be actively defended and exercised. Civilian sovereignty is about civic engagement. It means voting, protesting, local organising, holding our officials accountable. We can't just throw our hands up and say it's all lost. The rise of new technologies like blockchain and open source movements actually offers potential tools for decentralising control and empowering individuals. It's about finding ways to leverage these tools for democratic ends, rather than allowing them to be solely used for surveillance or profit. It's a continuous fight, and we need an active, informed populace to maintain it.
So, Kier, you're saying that while the challenges are immense, the tools and the fundamental rights still exist for us to reclaim or strengthen that sovereignty.
Exactly. It's not a passive state. It's an active process. We need to be vigilant, demand transparency, and use our collective voice. This means ensuring our laws are fit for the digital age, that regulators have teeth, and that citizens are empowered with digital literacy and the ability to control their own data. It's about empowering the individual within a framework of strong democratic institutions, not retreating from them.
And I agree that we need to fight, but the fight is harder than ever. When the institutions themselves are compromised or simply too big and complex to genuinely influence, then individual action becomes very difficult. We need to ask why these systems are so opaque, why data collection is so pervasive. It's not just about individuals being active, it's about holding the powerful accountable and, frankly, reining them in. That often means challenging the very structures that Kier believes can be reformed from within.
That's a very clear divergence there. Let's pivot to perhaps the most pressing and contemporary aspect of this discussion, AI and social media policing. These aren't just theories, they're unfolding right now. How concerned should we be?
Extremely concerned, Peter. AI presents profound challenges to civilian autonomy and societal stability. For example, economic disruption is a huge one. AI could automate vast sectors, leading to mass job displacement and widening inequality if not managed carefully. Then there's bias and discrimination. If AI systems are trained on biased data, they'll perpetuate and amplify systemic discrimination in areas like hiring, lending, or even criminal justice. And the idea of autonomous decision-making, AI systems in military, infrastructure, finance, raises huge questions of accountability. Who is responsible when an AI makes a catastrophic error? Governments and international bodies need to work together to establish clear ethical guidelines and regulatory frameworks. And quickly, we cannot allow these powerful tools to develop unchecked.
And on social media policing, it's already a disaster for free speech and individual liberty. These platforms, these private corporations, have become the gatekeepers of information. They're essentially acting as arbiters of truth, censoring content and banning users based on opaque private policies, often with a clear political bias. This isn't just about misinformation. It's about restricting legitimate discourse. It's pure surveillance capitalism, isn't it? They track our every click, profit from our data, and then use that power to shape narratives and influence our behaviour. It's the panopticon effect writ large, the constant awareness that you're being monitored, which leads to self-censorship and a chilling effect on political participation. It's undermining democratic discourse from the ground up.
So both of you see massive risks, albeit perhaps from slightly different angles. Kier, you're looking at the structural, ethical challenges of AI, while Nigel is highlighting the immediate impact of content moderation and surveillance on civil liberties. Is there common ground on how to tackle these issues?
Absolutely. We both recognise the scale of the threat. The common ground has to be in establishing clear democratic control over these technologies. This means strong independent regulation of social media platforms, forcing transparency in their algorithms and giving users more control over their data. For AI, it means investing in research that focuses on ethical development, ensuring accountability, and having public debate about its deployment. It's about making sure these powerful tools serve humanity, not control it. We need robust legislation that puts public interest before corporate profit and technological advancement at any cost.
The common ground is that we need to stop them from censoring us, stop them from profiling us without our full informed consent. It's not just about regulation. It's about demanding that these platforms, which have become de facto public squares, respect our fundamental freedoms. They can't claim to be neutral arbiters when they are clearly biased and operating with unchecked power. And AI, we need a serious conversation about its long-term implications for employment, for control, for the very essence of what it means to be human. If we don't act now, we'll find our sovereignty isn't just eroded, it's gone entirely. It's about individual liberty, Peter, above all else.
Powerful words from both of you. It's clear that the questions of who governs, what constitutes a shadow government, and how we navigate the digital future are not just academic. They're vital for the future of civilian sovereignty. Whether through active civic participation, robust regulation, or challenging entrenched powers, it seems the consensus is that vigilance is key. Kier, Nigel, thank you both for this incredibly insightful, frank, and utterly essential discussion today.
My pleasure, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. A very important conversation.
And that wraps up another episode of The Unseen Architects. We hope this conversation has given you much to think about regarding the complex interplay of power in our modern world. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged.